want to spring some evil on them today. You really think that's what a holy God is like? What that is, that's the Joker God. That's the God that may freak out at any time, right? What kind of peace are you going to have in your life if you have a God that may go off at any moment? You follow what I'm saying?
Can God ask man to do evil, like go into the
No,
promised
it's the
land
same
and
as
kill
doing
everything?
it.
That wasn't evil.
No, that wasn't. That's a
in
different.
today's standards,
No.
you can't go around
I don't
killing
care about today's standards.
Muslims. I wouldn't like-
Virgil, wait a second. What are today's standards? Cockeyed.
Yeah.
They're all jacked up. So let's be really careful. That's one of the mistakes we make. People as historians want to rewrite history based on today's view of things.
Right.
That's not how people looked at it back then.
I understand why they did it, but in today's standards, if you kill a Muslim, you're going to go to jail.
Today,
It's a law, though.
it's a completely different thing. And we'll bring, okay, Miss Susan, make a note. Virgil's question was,
Can God?
did God have asked other people to do evil? Can God use other people to perform evil? Is that about right?
Because the devil does it every day.
Yeah, well, let's not start equating God with the devil.
No. I said the devil.
What you're saying that God, you're asking me whether God can do the same things that Satan does.
But it's a part of the Ten Commandments. You're not supposed to kill people.
No, you're not supposed to murder.
Right.
That's been
Slaughter
misinterpreted
and murder.
for years and years and years. Years and years and years. The Greek is murder. The Aramaic is murder. Obviously, there are times, whether we like it or not in this fallen world, if somebody comes after my family and they're in my house at 3 o'clock in the morning, you think I'm going to shoot them? You daggum right I am. And I won't blink an eye.
In some places,
Center mass,
the guy goes to
two
prison
poles.
And the burglar can sue you. So it's
I don't care
That's
about
man's
that.
law. That's man's law.
It's a
Yeah, and I don't care anything about them suing me. If it means
No,
protecting my family.
sue, that's
Sue
right.
me all you want.
Two
Anyway.
ass and one to the head, and then they don't test them.
That's right. Who you
Make sure they don't crawl out.
who you gonna
Keep
sue?
them out.
Let me tell you, where we live, I can pull them out and they'd never find them. Anyway, be that as it may, we'll make a note of that and we'll come back to that.
And my
Because
U.S. government taught me that.
we're getting really, really scattered. Okay. So, the premise again is God can choose to make any world that he wants, and he would prefer good over evil. I don't have any question with the second assumption. Surely he would prefer good over evil. However, notice that the atheist is not pointing out that people would be mere puppets in this sort of world. If God created a world where there was no evil, there's only one way he could do that. No, he's saying that such a world is possible in which all people, now make note of this, get your thinking hats on here. The atheist is saying that such a world is possible in which all people freely make the right decision all the time. Think about that. He's saying that it's possible for you to be free, for you to have free will, not just you, but all the billions and billions of people that have come before us and after us, and they will choose rightly every time. That's possible. And yet you'll be free. You'll be free to choose.
It's a contradiction.
Yeah. They don't have a problem with those, though. The problem is we let them off the hook because we aren't training ourselves to hear them when they make them. That's the whole point of what we're talking about, is to think clearly and listen to what people are saying. Okay? Christians must concede this possibility, otherwise we would be saying that evil is necessary, which is unbiblical. The atheist continues that since God is all good, he would prefer such a world. Okay. All of that's fairly simple. But let's look at a couple of things here about those assumptions. First of all, those two assumptions that they make, that we said make sense, that God can make any kind of world he chooses, and God would prefer a good one over an evil one. The fallacy with this argument is that the two assumptions are not necessarily true. In the first place, it is not necessarily true that an all-powerful God can create just any possible world. Ooh, people are freaking about that. It's not necessarily true that an all-powerful God can create any possible world. God's being all-powerful does not mean that he can do logical impossibilities, such as making a round square or to make someone choose freely. You hear the contradiction there? What is make? Make me.
Not free.
What does that mean?
Not free.
Bingo! Coercion. It's like, hey, Luke, you clean your room or you're grounded for a week. Okay? There's coercion there. There's punishment involved. Potential. You can't create creatures. I don't care who you are. You cannot make free creatures do things. That's coercion. Make, meaning force, and free are contradictions. They can't exist together. God, therefore, cannot make a world of free people and force them to choose rightly. Does that make sense? You can't be free and forced at one and the same time. I know that makes us uncomfortable, makes us a little sweaty around the collar when we say God can't do this. But God is a rational, thinking God. He made us in his image to be that way. He cannot do logical impossibilities. Thus, if God grants people genuine freedom to choose as they like, then it is impossible for him to determine their choices for them. Doesn't mean he doesn't stand back here and know how you're going to choose, because he does know that. Okay, because again, he's outside of time. He knows the whole thing that's going on. He knows how you're going to choose, but he can't make you choose that way. And that's going to go into part 2. Just pretty interesting in a couple of ways.
No, it's
That-
it makes the Garden of Eden clear.
Yeah, well, it can be mind-boggling. Again, make notes. If you have a question, we'll go back over, okay? Because I want to try to get everybody caught up to where we are. But do you see what I'm saying? Does it freak you out that we're sitting in here saying that God can't do something? It may make you uncomfortable. Because we're not used to that, are we? We're not used to hearing that in the sanctuary. We're not used to hearing that in our Sunday school class. But why would we be uncomfortable to say that God can't do something that is logically irrational? Again, I go back to the point, why would we want to believe in an irrational God? Why would you want that? Why would you want to sit every day wondering, what if God decides tomorrow on a caprice that you're not saved anymore? What? Psych. Just kidding. How comfortable would you be with a God like that? And would that God be all-loving? No. So don't be uncomfortable. By the way, for what it's worth, for those of you who doubt me, I ran this by Pastor Kevin, and Kevin agreed with me 100% that this is biblically correct. Because I knew a couple of weeks ago some eyebrows went up. This is all true. This is biblically correct. Okay? But what of the second assumption? The fact that in many cases we allow pain and suffering to occur in in a person's life in order to bring about a greater good. Do we not do that? Look at us on our own individual. Do we not inflict suffering on our children as they're growing up to a greater or lesser degree to achieve a greater good? I don't know, maybe you guys have been really, really good parents and I was the only one forced to do that. But I had to create some pain and suffering for my sons a couple of times along the way in order to create a greater good. We do that. Do we not send people to prison in the hopes that they'll be rehabilitated? That's the hope, yeah. So we do, in fact, do we not execute criminals? Up in Boston. He's only a kid. I don't care. He maimed 200 and some people and killed 3. I don't care. He's not a kid, by the way. But notice how we've dumbed that down too. Now, what was it that they were saying in the one thing with the riots and all that? Well, the kid was only a normal 23-year-old kid. He's not a kid. I was in and out of the army before I turned 21. He's not a kid. Okay? Anyway, similarly, God, now think about this. Did y'all get that? Bring about a greater good. Similarly, God may permit suffering in our lives to build us or test us, or to build or test others through our example, or to achieve some overriding aim.